Infrastructure is crumbling and the problems are only getting worse. The pressure to find solutions is hot. Let's talk about why American cities have no water, no electricity, and no money to fix their infrastructure problems. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat Podcast, hosted by Chad Smeltzer.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Infrastructure Hot Seat. My name is Chad Smeltzer. I am your host. Today's guest is Roberto Treveso, who is the Public Works Director for Lake Park, Florida. Did I do that right, Roberto?
That's correct. Lake Park,
awesome.
Florida.
Well, thanks for joining me, man. I truly appreciate it. I was looking at your experience, a lot of years in the Air Force, but how did you, where did you start, and then how did you get into public works?
So I started in the private sector, and I ended up joining the military because I wanted some help with college, and the Air Force pointed me in the direction of public works. I joined the Air Force as an electrical systems apprentice, and spent a number of years, serving in that role. And as I gained additional experience and progressed throughout my military career, I had opportunities to learn different trades and supervise different work centers, all in the public works industry. So I kind of like became a jack of all trades, speak.
Nice. That's really cool. Did you travel a lot in the Air Force? You mentioned that at the beginning when we were getting started.
I did. I had an opportunity to spend probably 50% of my time, about 10 years, overseas. Had a number of deployments to the Middle East, twice to Afghanistan.
Wow.
I spent almost 5 years in Italy, which is where I married my wife. I met her and married her there. Traveled to Germany, Spain, all over the U.S. Spent a couple of years in Korea as well. So
wow.
Great experience, and a lot of growing and a lot of learning, by way of the travel.
Yeah. And then when you retired out of the Air Force, and then you started, what city did you start with? I looked at the bio, but I couldn't remember.
So when I first retired from the Air Force, I did not go into public works. I took a break. They recruited me into insurance sales, and I found that quickly that was not my thing. So I went back to about 7 months into it as I was my retirement became effective. I decided that I would go back to what I was good at, based on my success in the service. And I work for the water management district, so water utilities. That's still in the public works realm.
Yeah.
And I serve for the district here in West Palm Beach, as well as in the Broward County area.
Okay.
And after a couple of years there, I joined the City of West Palm Beach Public Works Department, and I ran their street maintenance section there
Nice.
for just over 3 years. And really, it was a tremendous opportunity and privilege, to serve in such a large capacity, for such a large city. And they taught me a lot. And my former supervisor, the public works director, I owe a great debt of gratitude because it was through his mentorship and our professional and personal relationship, that I was able to secure this opportunity that I have now to serve the Lake Park community.
That's awesome. So when you got into after the sales career, you got it. You obviously didn't want to do that job, and you got into public works. What was the first job you had in public works? I'm not sure if you mentioned that. So did you have to move up?
Just to clarify, I did public works in the military. Oh,
okay.
I was actually supervising. As I mentioned, I started my career as an electrician, but then I was working with electrical power production and vertical and horizontal repairs. So street maintenance, structural maintenance. Then what else were we doing there? Masonry, welding, So I kind of like became a jack of all trades, and I was supervising a number of those different work centers. So I gained some knowledge and experience in those different trades. When I came to the district, it kind of like built upon that because I was serving, even though I started supervising the electrical services division for the water management district. Uh,
Okay.
I got promoted into an assistant superintendent for the fuel station down in Fort Lauderdale, and there I was pretty much in charge of all of the operations for the district. So I was overseeing fleet maintenance,
Oh, wow.
canal and levee, which is a large grounds maintenance operation. I was supervising the water pump mechanics.
Wow.
So that was certainly, quite an experience and never a dull moment when you work for the district. And they have such a large area that they're responsible for, and it was really a huge adventure and a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, that's a man. That's a lot of experience. Doing it in the Air Force and then walking into the public sector. What's that transition like? Because a lot of people, I don't think, understand going from military to public sector. It's a whole different world. Can you explain a little bit more of like what that was like?
Absolutely. So the armed forces has a great transition period. So they start grooming you and preparing you for transition. I will say from day one. But
Mm,
as you mature and that you get closer to your exit from service, they do a lot of training. They do a lot. They make a lot of resources available for you. You do mock interviews. They help you prepare your resumes. So
wow.
that really is helpful. And they also help with placement also because you do a lot of networking. So as a matter of fact, the sting that I had in the insurance industry, they recruited me while I was still in the service.
Oh,
So they contacted me and they said, "Hey, we love your background, in public works." I'm not sure how they saw a connection, but I think they were looking for the discipline and the work ethic and the hard working,
right.
you know, um, methods that we typically display. So the transition, wasn't incredibly difficult. I still miss, some aspects of service, but I was happy to not have to do certain things that you're required to do in the military. So I think it was a positive move to transition when I did. And again, I was able to rely on the skills, the connections that I had made during the service, the experiences, and that's what really opened the doors for me at the district, and then building upon that to go to the city of West Palm Beach, and now to the role that I'm in.
How did you fit in all your education? I saw you have education. Like, yeah. Can
Yeah.
you how would you fit that in with
Yeah.
everything you're doing?
So I've been busy, and I'm one that I never like to settle, and I like to always be learning new things. I think that that's how you keep fresh and you stay competitive,
Oh yeah.
and that's something that I've always been careful to groom and to instill in people that I had the opportunity to supervise, that it should always be hungry and remain competitive. So in the military, they pay for one of the major benefits that they offer is the tuition assistance that they provide. So although I joined the military to get my education, get assistance with education, it wasn't until my third year in service that I actually made time to start school, as I was kind of like debating on whether I would remain in service or not. So the military makes it really affordable, and they have in a lot of cases education centers on the military installations where you can attend classes. And nowadays you have the online that are actually more prevalent, but you still have the option to go in a classroom environment and take classes. And it's really about the discipline and the commitment that you have to reach those goals that you have set for yourself, and
Yeah.
taking a little break, not being too hard on yourself, while you're studying, and getting right back at it as soon as you can. Otherwise you get dull, and the older
I
you
love
get,
it.
the more difficult it becomes. I've noticed that.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I tell people that all the time. You get comfortable, then you get stagnant, and you don't grow, and it's not healthy for you or anybody around you. You should always want to be uncomfortable and always learning, like you mentioned. That's super important. What are some of your challenges that you're facing now in infrastructure with all this? There's money, but there's not money. You have inflation going on. How are you balancing that right now with the work you need to get done, and what the challenges are?
Absolutely. So we have a great commission. We have a great body of elected officials, and have a great manager who are very forward-thinking and progressive in helping me and heeding the recommendations that I make to them. That I provide to them regarding how to face those challenges. So our town is celebrating this year its centennial,
Hmm.
and what that means is that you have a lot of infrastructure, you have a lot of assets that have been in service for a number of years, and a high number of them have exceeded their service life or their recommended service life. So they're either failing, or you're having to do major repairs for some of that infrastructure, some of the trucks, for example, for the refuse trucks. So there is funding available here in the town. We currently have about $15 million in drainage infrastructure improvements
Oh
that
wow.
are almost entirely funded through grants. So we have that underway, different stages, multiple projects, different stages of development, design, construction, some. Um,
Yeah.
uh, we still have tremendous need. So even though we just got 15 million, which by the way, that's about three times our annual budget, our annual
Okay.
operating budget. So we have been very fortunate, to secure those grants to make the improvements I mentioned. But we still have a lot of need, and right now we're completing two rate studies, one for solid waste and one for stormwater, that are going to help inform how we establish, our fees for the next 5 years or so. Because again, we have a lot of spending requirements and not enough revenue, being that this is just a 2.4 square mile town, less than 9,000 residents, and median to low income, typically
Okay.
majority minority type town. So that's
Yeah.
another challenge also. In that you have to be um, conscientious about the rates and the level of service, and keep a balance so that you don't make living for our residents who we serve unaffordable.
Yeah, because if you look at the tax base you have versus the infrastructure expenses that you have, it's not sustainable. You really look at those numbers and the pressure to fix water systems and sewer systems and stuff like that, and some drainage systems. That's it really there's not enough people to pay the higher rates for that kind of stuff.
And we're sort of built out. We don't have a lot of we. And by the way, we have about $1 billion in development or redevelopment
Oh
projects
wow.
currently underway. So although we're small, there's a ton of activity underway, but we're essentially built out. So we don't
Yeah.
have a lot of vacant land. We don't have opportunities to expand and build. Like the larger cities do. So it's all about making an effort to balance out the level of service, that's expected and required to our businesses, to our residents, with the bottom line,
Yeah.
those assessments, those fees that we're going to establish.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Florida's been blowing up with population. I mean, the amount of people moving there was, back in COVID, it was tremendous, growth, and sounds like it's still that way to this day. With you said $1 billion of growth or like new
Over a
development.
billion dollars.
Wow. Does it make sense? Are they building up? Like, I always wondered, like, because we keep expanding horizontally but not vertically.
Yeah.
Are you starting to see things go more vertical, or is it still?
absolutely. When, like I said, we're built out, so that's the only way
Yeah, you
we
have to
could.
go up, right?
Yeah, we could only go up, and actually to that end, we have amended our code, our land development ordinances, to allow for higher densities, higher intensities. Because again, we can't really expand horizontally.
Yeah.
We're literally, counting with probably two hands, the number of vacant lands we have. So it's either
Oh
going to
wow.
be vertical development, or it's going to be redevelopment of some of the existing properties, which is we have a number of projects, of that type currently underway.
Yeah. When you were working at West Palm Beach, that had to be a unique experience because that's a different level of service, kind of where you're at now versus there. Can you speak to some of the differences in service there?
I think the major difference, I think customers have the same expectations. Residents
Right.
have the same expectations, between the larger cities and the smaller communities. But I think the major difference was the resources that we had
Mm.
available, and the fact that there the form of government is actually a strong mayor. So the mayor was like a CEO basically,
Yeah.
so he had a very wide discretion basically, in the operations of the city, and a lot of resources. Doesn't mean that we had everything that I needed. There were some, some situations where we had to reprioritize resources, where you wanted to do some things, but where you wanted to do so much, but you can only do so much because of resources. But you did have a lot more resources, and with more resources you can do more.
Obviously, yeah,
So I think
that's
that,
huge.
yeah, I think that that was, the main thing there. We had some programs. I remember I had a sign shop, a traffic sign shop, full service, right? So all the traffic signs for the city we made in house, and that was something really
Huh.
neat. That I was so proud to be a part of, because we were able to stand up, that shop, and we were even looking at providing services to other communities,
Huh.
making signs for other communities because we had that capacity. Whereas here, I tend to rely, a lot more in vendors and contractors to do things for us. So we don't have a lot of services in house because,
Yeah.
again, because of the smaller budget.
Speaking of vendors and contractors and stuff like that, where have you seen uh, is it a lot? I'm trying to think of the right words to say here, but when you deal with a lot of those meetings and having those meetings, what are some of the things that you just don't like when salespeople come in and do? Because people, my audience listens to these things, and there's one thing that probably you don't like that you think people should know, and what is that?
Um, I think that sometimes when dealing with vendors, sometimes they lose sight of the fact that we've all been there in a lot of ways, and we understand that they gotta pay bills too,
Right.
and that we are seeing, historic inflation in terms of the cost of construction, the cost of providing services. So I think that, just remembering, that we're in this together, and that ultimately, we all want to pay the bills, but we want to do it in such a way, that is agreeable, and is collaborative. I think
Yeah.
that that's the one message that I will send, to them. Sometimes, some vendors, tend to, be too smart for their own good, if you know what
Yeah.
I mean.
Or a little too aggressive.
A little too aggressive, that too,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, been there, seen it. I've watched it happen. These guys get pushed to the end. To create sales. And get those in the pipeline, so to speak, and they lose respect from the customer, right? Just it's not the way we do business. And I think we start losing some of that as we start seeing these. And it's just my personal agreeing, like opinion, obviously, but as these private equity companies are buying up a lot of these construction companies, you're going to see a lot of that high pressure because it's all turn. They want to create revenue, revenue, revenue. So you're going to see a
Absolutely.
lot.
They
Or
contact me, and if if for some reason they're not hearing what they want to hear from me, then they contact my boss,
ooh,
and
that's never good.
then my boss will turn around and contact me about them contacting him. So, so ultimately, again, the reason why I love my manager is that he pretty much he allows me to run the department, and
Yeah.
although we collaborate in a number of ways, ultimately he lets me run the department. So sometimes vendors, they don't like the answer they get from you, or they don't like that you already have a service they're offering. So they try to push past you, to maybe somebody that can give them the response that they're looking for. So that's not
Yeah.
ideal when that happens.
Yeah, it's out there. I get it. I just I'd like to hear it so that they hear it and be like, look, guys, stop the shenanigans like that. Going to the boss is never professional. It doesn't make any sense at all. And the only thing you just did is, and if I was in your shoes, Roberto, I'd be like, don't ever call me again because
That's
we're never
typically
going to do business.
Yeah, that's typically how I respond. But I try to keep it friendly.
You got to, but this that's what people should know is like those kind of things just don't work. Not it just doesn't make sense. What is one thing you're passionate about that you really in this space that you really love, and if you had a chance to fix it, what would it be?
So I'm passionate about growth and about development,
Yeah,
of people's potential. It's something that I think it was instilled in me, from an early age in the military, and it's something that I continue to stress to my operations manager, to the supervisors that report to him, and to every employee. Just really realizing your potential and being ambitious, and setting goals for you, and not letting others set goals for you, unless they're agreeable to. But sometimes, particularly in the service industry, in the and in the public works industry, um, for one reason or the other, sometimes the members of the workforce are not leaning, in a way that yields to growth or professional development. They really have no professional goals or personal goals that they're looking to meet, and so they have this defeatist attitude, and that's something that I typically make it my goal, my mission, to try and change. I love working with, and I stress to supervisors, their number one job here is not to pick up the garbage, it's not to cut the grass, or to clean, a drainage pipe, is to
right,
supervise the people that they've been entrusted, to supervise. So it's great when you get to see someone achieve their goals that they have
yeah,
set. So that's something that I really try to, and again, I'm a veteran, so I always have a solution for things. If you ask anybody in my team, they'll let you know that I always have an answer to problems. And
yeah,
sometimes it's not the answer they want to hear. So, but uh, sometimes they call it tough love. But I try to groom and take care of our people the best way we can, and I want to see them be successful at whatever it is, that they have set as a goal for themselves.
right. Because you've been down the road, man. You've had years and decades of experience, right? I mean, traveling the world and getting to see so many unique things. I mean, anybody that you would mentor would, I hope appreciate that because that's huge. I mean, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't get to do. So, learning from you and your experiences is super helpful to get people up because nowadays it's there's a lot of mental health issues, things like that can drag people down and get unfocused. So having someone like you helping mentor that and bringing people up is awesome. So kudos to you for doing that kind of stuff because we need more people like that. I really do. It's one of those things that we need helping people helping people. That's really what it
Absolutely.
comes down to.
and I've been fortunate enough, and blessed to have had the experiences that I had. So I see that as a responsibility, for me, to kind of like pass it on and make sure that I'm helping others where I can, and that I'm working, in a way that is going to help them achieve whatever goals they have. Again, not everybody is meant to have a master's degree. Not everybody, should be a supervisor. I think we need people serving in at every level, at every classification. But if they do want to be the director, then I think that's kind of like my goal to sort of share from what I know and put them in a position with their effort, their hard work, to reach that goal, to get there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's great. What are one of the things that you are focusing on this year, like projects? You said stormwater, drainage before. Is that like the main project? You got a couple other ones going on.
Yeah, we got so the grant award that I mentioned. We are expecting to complete design for some of those projects in the next few months. So we'll be looking to put those projects out for bid so that we can construct them. And we have a couple of other projects, for the town hall. We're doing the payments management, implementation of that program, and a large initiative for us is to also improve on our street lighting. We
Okay.
have a high number of locations throughout the town that are underserved
Mm,
for street lighting purposes. They're not meeting criteria, and we made it a priority this year to get that study done. So we're master planning. We're in the final stages of master planning some improvements to that infrastructure, and we're hoping to in the next year begin implementing that and really bring in proper lighting to our streets so that
yeah,
citizens
that's
feel safe as they walk about the town. Better traffic safety, better or less crime. Those tend to be the benefits of that.
yeah. That's super important. That's great to hear. You guys are working on those things because having lighting is super important. I mean, safety wise, like you're talking, light up the streets. I mean, the fact that we don't have that already in America is kind of amazing to me. With the amount of money we spend everywhere else, it's like, come on, or even water services or sewer services. It's kind of amazing too. But Roberto, how can people get a hold of you? We're at the end of the interview. Is there and then what is you know anything you could recommend to young people that want to get into public works before we end?
Yeah. So what I recommend is that anyone aspire to serve, try to balance work experience with education. I can tell you that had I not taken the time, my major for my undergraduate studies was actually computer information systems and business. So really more geared towards the private sector. But if you really want to make a career in public service, particularly in public works, then a public administration, formal program, I think will be desirable. So that will be, highly recommended. Either getting associates or a bachelor's or even a certificate program in that respect, and then try to learn as much as possible, from every experience that you're exposed to. Put yourself in positions where you can experience things, where you can be involved with programs, network, join professional organizations
Yeah,
so that you can network and grow from those relationships. So that's what I would say. You can reach out our department via our email address, which is Public Works at Lake Park, Florida, spell out completely, .gov, or 561-881-3345. So that's
yeah,
our contact information. And our website is www.lakeparkflorida.gov.
awesome,
So
man.
happy to serve, or assisting any way I can.
Man, you're an inspiration to a lot of people. So we get young people watching this is very inspirational because you have a lot of experience, and thank you for your service being in the Air Force.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. You know, we need probably more people to get in the Air Force and get in the military. You know, that's one of those things that, you know, I see the advertisements for nowadays. Everyone's short on labor. So, you know, it's super important to get these kind of things out and educate people on what actually public works is like. So I appreciate you jumping on the podcast with me. Truly inspirational. And you have a great Memorial Day weekend, man.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your audience, and I appreciate the opportunity, Chad. Be well.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Infrastructure Hot Seat podcast. We hope that this show brought you some insight on relevant topics within the infrastructure world. Please join us every 2 weeks on Tuesday for the next episode. If you're interested in being a guest on this podcast, please set up a 15-minute interview with your host at calendly.com/Chad Smeltzer.